So in this moment, right here, right now, I turn my awareness to the presence of the divine, knowing that that infinite life, that power, that energy, that universal spirit, God, whatever you call it, is present right here, right now, as it is ever present in all ways, always. And I'm just so grateful to know that this life lives and moves and has its being and expression in, through, and as me, and as all things, as each one of us gathered here today, for we are all one in the same divine life. And I'm just so grateful to know this truth, to recognize it, to recognize and know that this community is one, and is one in is our higher purpose, and our purpose as a community, just this expansion and this growth and this demonstration and expression of love. I know that this time together is sacred, that we stand on holy ground, and as we come together, that we are powerful and that we make a difference. And as we align with that purpose and that vision of living our greatest life, that we indeed can do amazing, wonderful, powerful, beautiful things. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this. And I know that Reverend Shari, her words just inspire each of us in our own unique ways. I know that the music of TJ and Sylvia just lift us up, and that we just come together in this spirit of joy and expansiveness. And for this, I am just so deeply grateful. So I allow this time to unfold in perfect, divine right order, just as it should be, that we are here by sacred agreement, our soul contract, and that we are fulfilling this vision of ourselves that each of us has. And I'm just so grateful. I allow this to unfold perfectly. I call it forth into being, declaring it good, saying it is so, and so it is. So it is. And now we go back to TJ, right? Yeah. Welcome, TJ. Yep.
Give TJ a hand.
Hey, how's everybody? Ain't it funny how I'm gonna do that like comedian stand-up comedy thing? Ain't it funny? You're like, no, it's not that funny. Ain't it funny how the older you get, the more questions you have?
Yes.
See, when I was younger, I thought it was going to be the other way around.
Right.
Is there a God up above or a hell below? Either way, you're gonna live your life and never know. Is it love or lust or loneliness you're feeling? Are you reeling from the weight of it all, trying not to fall? When you think you know the answer, the question starts to change. But when you know that you don't know, the answer's still the same. Is the truth out there? Is the truth inside? Or is truth just a word that we use to enthuse our curious side? Will you take the time to look inside the book you write within your mind and read between the lines? You see the space that doesn't need to be defined. When you think you know the answer, the question starts to change. But when you know that you don't know, the answer is still the same. And on it goes. It's only on for now. Who knows how long it goes? When you think you know the answer, the question starts to change. But when you know that you don't know, the letting go can ease all things. Yeah, when you know that you don't know, the answer's still the same. The answer's still the same.
You know how I know he knows this? He makes these beautiful faces when you're singing. And he questions what he's questioning, right? And you're a new dad. Oh, yeah, and she doesn't talk yet. Look out. Yeah. What? Yeah. How do I answer that one? It's cool. Well, is there a chance we can see who's online? Or is that going to be too complicated? Right now it's just me. I don't need to see me. I'd like to see everybody, if possible. Today we have Reverend Shari. Yes, yay. And Reverend Shari, this is the most perfect talk for you today, because she has been on a mission, I think. I can barely see you there. She's been on a mission for herself in a lot of discoveries and healing and health and the whole gamut of life. So I think, and I don't know if you noticed, but I put Reverend Dr. Shari Sorbo today. I am. But I wanted to give her credence here because she's just a brilliant individual who's done a lot of studies. And I'm grateful that she has hung out with me and that we get to do this together. And I'm going to be excited when you get back here so I can get you on the podium a little bit more. So, and I noticed you wore green today. I didn't know you were going to. I mean, there's only one. Only one. So let's welcome Reverend Shari Sorbo for today.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Can you hear me? Just nod your face. I always say when I'm online at home, get your popcorn out because I know you guys have a popcorn machine. So get your popcorn out so that we could eat, drink, and be merry as I move into this is as Suzette said, and I think I was talking online. I think this is my third talk since ordination. And I see the lovely drapes behind Suzette, and I'm reminded of the ordination that I had. And they always say after ordination that things change for you in a most glorious way. So I just have to say, after having the ordination, which was absolutely stunning and beautiful there, and thank you, everyone. I had to pack up my stuff a few weeks later and head back to Minnesota. So when I did that, what happened was I was unloading the car and I was in so much pain with my knees that I said, enough, I've had enough. So by the end of August, I had a knee replacement. And then my left knee was jealous that I got a new knee on my right knee. So I had to do that one too. So last year was a year of sabbatical for me. And I'm just getting my feet planted back on the ground, walking a lot, and getting myself ready to be moving back out to California. So in that realm, Suzanne and I were talking about the themes, and the monthly theme of good to great to grand took me back a little bit. And I had to sit and ponder about that. And then the power of vision that came through for me in this talk was it makes perfect sense. And we get to discover that, I think, on our own, individually and collectively. So, what came to mind for me talking about the power of vision was the quote from the Bible, and that's Proverbs 29:18. Without vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So I thought, okay, I understand without vision, the people perish. And what I realized was without vision, the people perish. So if people can't see what God is doing, whether you call it God, spirit, energetic, whatever that is doing, they kind of stumble over top of themselves. But when people attend to what God is revealing, they're most blessed. And that's why we walk in wonder and awe. That's my experience. So my experience is that no vision means no revelation. So if we don't have a vision, and the vision with Om is living your greatest life, that's a vision. So what does that look like? And that's what I want to talk about today. Because I want to look at vision and visioning and the practice that we can use to incorporate both. I have to keep putting my hands down because I like to talk with them. So Carl Jung, and most people are really familiar with his saying, and I have a slide that reminds me of a Silomar with a Carl Jung saying on it, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. And I love that saying. But as a practical idea, let's kind of break it down a little bit. The practice of the idea of vision, we vision and our outward dreams. What are our outward dreams? That's the vision. And we use the practice of visioning to look inside for our own awakening. So who looks outside dreams through the vision, and who looks inside awakens through the visioning. So how can we do that? Well, first we have to take stock in our own process. And that means we have to be honest with ourselves. And I had to do that last year. I had to take stock of things, and I had to recuperate. And I've never had health issues before. So it was really different for me. I had to sit and I had to be with the process of what was happening for me. And what I realized was, how could I be an agent of change when I wasn't willing to look at this part of the health issues? So the inquiry through visioning can transform our lives. And being willing and able to be curious about what's happening, no matter what is happening in the outside world, to really be curious. Is this kind of triggering me, or what's this pain telling me? It could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be physical. But curiosity can open so many doors for us. Then there's a Japanese proverb that talks about having both vision and action. Because vision without action is a daydream. And action without vision is a nightmare. And I used to think that, I heard Reverend Michael talk about this, and I thought that was so profound. And here I found out it was a Japanese proverb, knowing that he pulls from other things too, which I really, really appreciate. So, one of my favorite Ernest Holmes quotes is, "What the world needs is spiritual conviction, followed by spiritual experience." I would rather see a student of the science prove its principle than to have him or her repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. It's far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. So, what do you think he means by spiritual conviction? I had to really look at that, even in a more deep experience within myself of what spiritual conviction is. What do I stand for? What are the values that I have? What are the values that you have? What do you stand for? So it really is a firm belief that without hesitation, we believe that God is all there is. We know the oneness. We know it and we can feel it in our bones. So let's get real. We are students of science of mind. And science of mind is the study of mind. We study God or spirit or whatever you like to call it. And our lab is our mind. Scientists prove things in the world. Chemistry, they go to an office, they have beakers, they look at little whatever those are called, but they are proving things that way. We, as students of science of mind, want to prove God. We want to prove consciousness. We want to prove spirit. And that's why we have to feel it in our bones. Science of mind's not here to tell you how to think. We're here to present tools for you to do your own experiments. So sometimes the tool is meditation. Sometimes the tool is spiritual mind treatment. Sometimes there's different tools. Sometimes it's a walking meditation, or we're here to experiment. And everyone, everywhere, has their own way of discovering that feeling of the substance of itself within us. We have different ways to do it. And so we're a laboratory, and science of mind is that science of the study of that. But there's a catch here. You have to believe it. You have to believe it within yourself. You have to absolutely stand firm and know. So what happens when, there might be a problem with a relationship or health-wise or emotional-wise? What happens? Do we stand on our beliefs? That's when we can pull from all the practices that we've had. So Merriman and Morrissey, which I absolutely loved, and it really talks about it through what Ernest Holmes said. Far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. And what Merriman and Morrissey says is, do you know it or do you know about it? Do you know absolutely the study of the science of mind and the study in the lab of our minds? Do you absolutely know this truth or do you know about it? And that's the thing I remember being in, I think it was practitioner class, and there's one part in the Science Mind Manual where Ernest Holmes says, this is not a study for the weak of heart, because we have to be responsible for our thoughts, for our beliefs, for our internal way of changing things. So rather than change your thinking, change your life, we can transform our thinking And that alone transforms our life. So I want to share one of the aha moments that I got because I knew about science of mind. I didn't know it at the time. I was in a class with Reverend Michael, and he, it wasn't a class, it was a Sunday service, but during classes, you know, you're studying everything. And it first has to hit you there. It has to hit you in your mind. You have to understand it from that place. So we were looking at cause and effect, and I didn't really know what was lurking in my unconscious mind in my early studies. I would learn, I would practice, I could do my treatments. It was all wrapping itself around me and inside of me and encouraging me to move on. And then one Sunday at Agape, Reverend Michael would come up and say, God is good. And the whole congregation would go all the time. And I was sitting there and I heard myself go, yeah, right. Whoa, it hit me that that little piece was my part of denial. I I did not believe it that he was good all the time because I was working on something. And I remember that the universe always says yes, right? The universe says yes to everything. And I was working on something and it wasn't working and the universe wasn't saying yes to it. I was not getting anywhere with it until I heard myself say, when Reverend Michael said God is good, I heard myself say, yeah, right. That was my but. That was my no. And what I realized from that was the universe was saying yes to my no. So it was still saying yes. And it was still leading me in that way. And it was there that I discovered, yes, the universe was working. It was saying yes to my no. It was putting on the brakes while I was trying to put on the gas. I was doing the gas and then I was doing the brake at the same time. I don't know if anybody else drove that way, but I know some people that did and was like, no wonder it's not working because I'm not allowing it in. I didn't throw open the doors of my mind or my consciousness. So that was a big revelation for me. The universe does indeed always say yes. And if it's not happening, then where is it in the belief system that is stagnating it because it's still saying yes? So as you look at your life in the world right now, it's really important to see that this is a creation of our belief system. Whatever's happening out there, we as individuals, we as a society, it's created in our own experience, and we're living it right now. It's possible to transform that. It's absolutely possible. And this is where we can move from transforming our thinking, and that alone transforms our life. So whatever's happening out there that you don't like or something that's being expanded on, let's pull our attention inward and see those nooks and crannies that are getting triggered by that. I've often heard people say, my biggest teacher has been blah, 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 which I had one of those teachers and I didn't like it, but yet it was that teacher that moved me into my next part, my next aha moment, which was like, yes to the no. So what I wanted to share with you was aha, what I've realized over, especially this last year, because I've done it numerous times. I've done meditation numerous times, but this kind of opened me up to a bigger expansion. And I would like to share these daily visions that led into this internal as well as external. because it holds the vision all through the day. And you can practice it just for a few minutes in the morning before you start your day. You can really root in this part. So these are the morning, I call them morning practices. And as TJ was talking about, or morning questions. So the first question is, and see if you can wrap your mind around this and then wrap your body and your soul around it. What is the greatest imagination that I have for the presence of God? Get your curiosity going in the morning into these questions about God. What is the greatest imagination that I have for the presence of God? What images, what feelings, what epiphanies are inspired when I imagine the greatness of the sacred? So imagine starting out the morning. You don't have to be walking. You can be brushing your teeth. You could be doing your hair. You could be changing your clothes and just pop that question in. What's the greatest imagination that I have for the presence of God while I'm making coffee? And the next one is, what is the greatest imagination that I can have for God acting in my life? What's the greatest imagination for God acting in my life at my work? Maybe something's going on at work and, what's the greatest imagination of God that I can have in my life in this situation? For me showing up and caring for myself, for showing up how I exist and participate in this thing called life. What's the greatest imagination? And then the third one is, what is the greatest imagination of how God can be the heart of my relationships? How can it enrich my partnerships, my work life? Excuse me. How can it it's already starting to work in my stomach, as you could see. How can it enrich relationships with people I love the most? And how can it enrich the effect that meeting a person, a stranger, and yet also the people I have yet to meet, how can it enrich that effect? What's the greatest imagination of how God can be the heart of my relationships? I have found that when I'm asking these types of questions, I set my day up so that I'm curious rather than being triggered. I'm actually seeing and expressing how God is showing up. I remember one dear, dear minister friend of mine who had passed away. He would always say, I wonder how God's going to show up in Mary's life. I wonder how God's going to show up in Cecil's life. And he would imagine that before he went to work and worked with these people. And it expanded his vision of God working out in the world. And we say a world that works for everyone. So why not be a lab experiment and try? So it changes all the challenges in our life when we start the day imagining how God's going to show up. And we've set it in motion, just those words alone. So when we contemplate those kind of questions, it really can bring about personal and social change. So play with it, experiment with it, be that laboratory of science of mind, and see what happens. Because for me, it helps to take the attention of the effects off the circumstances or conditions, and it deepens my own feeling of recognizing that it is in my bones. I know it. I don't know about it, but I know it. So when we're curious and we're asking these questions, this helps flip the switch from the outside dreaming to the internal awakening. So with that, we move from externally seeing things in a different way towards something grander that we can share as our collective, our little collective in relationships, and our bigger collective in the world. So we can recognize that forward motion toward the vision that's possible. So using this can move us from, and here's the kicker, good to great to grand. And it happens naturally. That's what good to great to grand means for me. So Ernest Holmes writes, a new light is coming into the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin. Now, he wrote that in the 50s or 40s. A new light is coming into the world. We're seeing this exponentially in a bigger way right now. I would venture to say since 2020, but even more. It's happening so quickly. And the veil is very, very thin. So in these times we're living in, we can lift the veil by absolutely knowing this vision that we're creating and use our curiosity to discover an ever expanding, deepening experience, throwing wide open the doors to consciousness and the meaning of God in whatever form or word that is meaningful to you. That's the practice of science of mind. We're the living laboratory of it. So let's practice and know rather than know about it. It's really up to us to throw off any kind of weight that we have, and we have to do the work inside. So with that, I'd like to use the Om affirmation as a starting point and a vision for the rest of the day, and be curious with that. And I think I have it on a slide. So let's say it together. I am an expression of God, born into the richness and abundance of the indwelling presence. Today, I walk upon my world consciously, creating oneness within and around me. Take a breath and let that sink in. You are born into the richness and abundance of this indwelling presence. You can walk upon your world consciously, creating oneness within and around me. Throw open the doors and allow this to happen. And I say, and so it is, and so I let it be. Amen.
Everybody's standing up.
I'll get to see that when I get there.
That's right. That was a great talk. Thank you. Wasn't that good? Yes. Got a lot out of that.